to get through life.
Yes. So after her travels abroad with her family, she returned to America, and she met Teddy Wharton, who was a sportsman. He shared her flair for travel, and in 1885 they were married. And their marriage really was based on sort of their common interests, their interest in travel, and they themselves traveled abroad throughout much of the latter part of the century and into the 20th century. And in 1902, they built their own home. They sold their home in Newport, Rhode Island. It was a country home, and Edith Wharton actually designed her own estate, which is in Lenox, Massachusetts. She named it the Mount. I believe it was after one of her uncle's homes on Long Island. I believe there's a home here called the Mount.
And her very first book was called The Decoration of Houses. She was very into architecture, and she doesn't mean decoration as in like knickknacks and decorating, but she means in decorating and structure of a house. So this was like her passion to build her own heaven.
Right, and actually the book that she co-published with Ogden Codman, which was The Decoration of Houses, was published in 1899, and her design principles were really based on simplicity, symmetry, and functionality. She didn't really believe in sort of this ornamental, no clutter. So it was very, and if you visit the Mount, you see that it's all the rooms were gardens. Even she has 2 gardens. Everything is very symmetrical, and it's just very simple. There's nothing. It's actually
no curtains.
No
She
curtains.
didn't believe in curtains. She said she thought Americans were kind of stupid because they adapted this putting curtains in their house. But she had spent so much time in Europe, and only the houses that were kind of had drafts, lower class houses that didn't have good structure, they put curtains on the windows. And then years later, she was back in New York, and people were putting curtains on their windows, thinking it was, aesthetic reasons. So she felt there should never be curtains unless you have a draft. And that's the purpose for a curtain. And she also felt in terms of looking at a room, it doesn't matter what the upholstery is or what painting is on the wall. The molding is what's important.
Right, the basic elements of the architecture.
Structure.
Right.
So it's a good book, actually.
Yeah, and good principles too.
Yeah.
And so in 1902, she built the Mount, and her and Teddy Wharton lived there until 1913. Teddy and Edith's marriage began deteriorating because Teddy actually started suffering from acute signs of depression. And over time, it actually worsened. And they consulted neurologists, and most of the neurologists that Edith Wharton and Teddy consulted were of the opinion that he sort of had just exhausted himself after just he had traveled with Edith so many times, and Edith she saw in him, when she first married him, this boyish enthusiasm, and he was very spirited, but he kind of just, I guess...
And his father had committed suicide, so he had a history of depression.
Right, so in 1913, Edith Wharton and Teddy divorced, and during the First World War, Edith decided to put most of her effort into the war relief, and she started. She built buildings where refugees could come in, and she moved to France in the First World War, and she was very heavily into the relief effort, and that really preoccupied the rest of most of her life. She actually didn't visit America again after 1923. And so from 1923 to 1937, at the time of her death, she stayed in France. And she rented in the latter part of her life, she rented a mansion, a villa in Paris. And
she had money. She had money to do all this.
Yeah. And that's actually where she stayed until her death in 1937. So we're actually going to start talking about some of her novels, 5 of which are displayed here.